Morning, guys. So that's just a little clip there, and I'm going to put that photo of the jerk in question. But, you know, here's a guy, people going around and on about the protesters and, you know, how disrespectful and da-da-da-da-da. So I've just been speaking to one of the women that looks after the building. Lovely, lovely woman, part of the whole, they look after this one and that one there. And, you know, she's been saying, like, you know, that she's got friends and family involved in the protests, and so she goes and tells them, you know, things like, you know, hey guys, pick up your rubbish and things like that. And then they come back and there's a good flow of information, which, you know, really has stopped. These sort of people are the unsung heroes of this particular protest, and they've really stopped a lot of escalation just by doing their jobs and actually doing what we expect of government. You know, this is Government House. On the first day when the protesters were here and it was very, very, very hot, they actually brought out water to the protesters, and they've been literally walking around, keeping space and doing the jobs. They're not taking sides, but just understanding that democracy is part of our, you know, area. And they obviously want people to behave, but they haven't actually got themselves to be part of these other organisations that have sort of lost sight of what their charter actually is. Now, the interesting thing is, when I left her, we're talking about this aspect, and she was saying, you know, this is the United States. People would have been killed by now, and this is again this very distinctive, lovely New Zealand aspect about it. So media turns around and tells lies, but we're not that big a country, so or government tells, you know, misinformation, and it filters back through the whānau, back like no, that's not true, and they tell them where to look and da, and that gets balanced actually out really, really lovely. Morning everybody, how are we doing today? Yeah, I know. So they've been doing this wonderful job keeping the peace and actually doing the things that we expect of our society, you know, of authorities. So, for example, when they found troublemakers in the police, you know, in the ranks, they've thrown them all towards the police, and the police have responded by throwing them back. They haven't been any interested in any people making any complaints about people that have latched onto the protests for the purposes of causing mischief. People like that are the ones that are actually stopping this from really escalating. And yet, here we are walking down the street, young guy, typical Wellingtonian, wandering down the street, bouncing his ball, bounces off the wall, hits in the vent, and she says, look, you know, would you mind not doing that? So his response was to bounce the ball again. So there's a contrast here of going, this is what they want to put on the protesters, and yet we find people outside of protests that can be found as equally guilty of being, if not more, disrespectful. So I just thought I'd share that little event with you anyway, because it really, to me, captures the disconnection and the double standards that actually are going on. And meanwhile, luckily, because we've got people like the Maori wardens and the local security who take their jobs really, really seriously, then thankfully we're actually having quite a positive experience.